The story of Rex is one of personal growth, finding a dream, and taking responsibilities for the problems we have the capability to solve. When Rex first looked towards the World Tree and dreamed of those Elysian fields, who could have imagined how far our journey could have taken us? The roads we traveled, the bosses we defeated, and the losses we sustained, the tears that were shed, or the balled fists raised to the sky in exhilaration. A true rule of cool mixed with a roller coaster of emotion. But as Rex climbs the World Tree and breaks through to his foil Jin, he watches him dissipate, as Rex is left with two clear remaining goals. 1. Stop Malos. 2. Find Elysium. But it wouldn't be Xenoblade if everything went according to plan, and the introduction of Klaus as a character, the architect, the proverbial god of this world of all rest, shakes things up a lot, and puts everything we expected from Xenoblade 2 on its head. Many people would argue the Jin scene from before is when Rex hits his climax. But to me, this is where his story all comes together, and we get the big payoff. We go from his lowest low to his dang near highest high, within one scene. Welcome everybody to the Rex analysis series for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, as we continue our march to the end. In our penultimate episode, let's enter Elysium, shall we? Right, so after the Jin bit, we go up the longest elevator second only to the ones I make whenever I play Terraria, and the ever-sprawling fields of green and dreamlike skylines we expected from the beginning of the game with dotted villages, and a church bell ringing out on the horizon. Turns out to be nothing more than a deserted wasteland dotted with unoccupied ruins populated with scattered memories of a civilization long past. The lonely swing set, the bicycles, and ruined homes against the backdrop of the sandy dunes makes for a stark contrast from the dream sequence at the beginning of the game, and everything Rex thought he knew, or at least anticipated, gets turned on its head. It is at this moment that he learns that his goal from the beginning of the game, Elysium, was nothing more than a mirage amongst a lonely desert, a dream that eroded away amongst the sands of time. There was no salvation, no paradise, no finish line to cross to signify the end of the journey, or to grant humanity salvation amongst the slow death of Ulrest's titans. Maybe Jin was right. Maybe Mortha was inevitable. Eventually the party stumbles upon an old church, and within finds an altar. The altar moves, and the party proceeds down it, and are caught amongst a dreamlike sequence where everyone's deepest, darkest insecurities are amplified and singled out and laid out for all to witness, especially Rex. Why you? What makes you special? This ruined hellscape is what we fought so hard for? We believed you. We trusted you. Hell, even some of us loved you. And this is the resultant of the path we walked. All we overcame and all we lost was for this. It's important to bear in mind that these are nothing more than the intrusive thoughts of the party. This isn't all what they believe, just those deepest, darkest insecurities in this present moment after being hit with the reality of Elysium, singled out and amplified. And Rex must confront this reality, because while he doesn't want to admit it, you can read it from his voice and his face. This is what he believes in himself. For in a way, these are all of his insecurities coming to light as well. The Elysium that he thought would save everyone didn't exist. The world was still dying, Malos was still out there, and what was it all for? What do they even do now? It's at this point that Rex is challenged, arguably more so than even back in Tantal. But the difference is that he has the experience of all that had came before. It's still not easy, and Rex quickly becomes overwhelmed, proclaiming the one thing that just comes to his mind. Why is everyone acting so strange, so weird, over and over again? Struggling to find the words or the solution to this current predicament. Everything Rex had been fighting for is turning out to be a facade at this moment. His entire dream is coming crashing down, and he just needs time to process it all, but must suffer the onslaught of those hidden intrusive thoughts of all of his friends back to back. He runs away from everyone. Again and again, he's stuck in a nightmare where all of his fears and doubts become realized. Rex could have used the powers of the Aegis in other ways, like trying to make out a different solution or take out Malos and Jin before when he had the chance. Could have even done it back down in Mortha. But instead, he clawed his way to Elysium because he believed that was the right thing to do, that he had to get through to them. And he's realizing now that he may have just called all in on a losing hand. The world is dying and he sought out a pipe dream. Before, whenever he had doubts or worries, he could rely on his friends and teammates to prop him up, but not here. He has to face this himself. And then comes the real gut punch. Instead of more beratement, he stumbles upon Corinne's house in Fonset village, occupied only by Piva and Mithra in separate bodies, preparing dinner, offering him bread rolls and drinks, scolding him to wash his hands before dinner. He goes from his greatest fears made manifest to his biggest dreams come true. It's emotional whiplash 101, people. He has all those doubts and insecurities laid before him with pretty much everyone, to Rex turning their backs on him, and then is confronted with his ideal life. He's feeling guilty, severely so, questioning if he went wrong somewhere, if he could have made another choice. He doesn't feel like he deserves this. He overloads and breaks. The world is dying, still suffering, and he may have made the wrong choice and is now out here living his dream while others suffer, and those closest to him turn their backs on him. If Rex was a selfish character, then this may have been fine, but he isn't. And whereas another person may have found contentment in this scene, in this dream, he finds hell made true. He feels like he's let everyone down. Instead of being punished, is being rewarded for it. He's brought to his lowest low before he is pulled out of it. He questions everything, but he is pulled out eventually, and he's informed that it was just the deepest, darkest thoughts of everyone, not what they really felt or truly believed. And with meeting Klaus the Architect, the god of this world, Rex learns the truth of the world. And you may be wondering why I had to walk you through that entire dream sequence and Elysium up to now. It's because the context of that scene, the context of him finding Elysium, and for that dream to crumble away from him, that is important, and it needs to bear in mind, and you need to understand that entire array of emotions that he felt there, because it's going to recontextualize his entire Klaus conversation for you. Because this is the bit we need to hone in on. The parallel between Rex and Klaus. Klaus lost hope for humanity, and thus used the conduit to create a new world to give it a fresh start. But even now admits that he was a fool for trying to play God. It split him apart, and eventually he would just yearn for oblivion. However, let's play a little game here, shall we? Let's replace a few words there, and tell me if this sounds familiar to you, or even similar. Rex lost hope for the world, and thus strove for Elysium to give it a fresh start. Go a step further, and Rex realized that Elysium didn't exist, much like the new fabled world of Klaus. Just split him in twain, and eventually the despair of it all consumed him, much like it had almost just consumed Rex in the dream world. It's the same story, people. That's the point. Both strove for a finish line. Both strove for some magic answer to solve all the world's problems, their own fabled Elysium. But the reality of the situation was that it was just created, or even that it just brought to light a whole host of other issues, while actually providing no solutions. The cycle would just repeat over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Xenoblade as a whole loves its character thematic parallels, and Xenoblade 2 especially loves them when it comes to Rex. The Jin parallel was the one most in your face as a player up to this point, but this is the point where transition occurs, and you realize that the Klaus parallel was the one that was far more substantial. Klaus chased a dream that destroyed the world, and put one world in an endless downward spiral, while he saw his other half subjugate the world of Xenoblade 1 and rebel against it. When he tried to atone, he realized humanity would end up repeating the same mistakes he did, and that humanity did before. It's kind of like Jin in a way. He believed that humanity would always just lead to Mordetha, and he lost hope again, until Rex and Numa showed up, and he watched them on their journeys, watched them throughout the entire game. You could argue that the entire perspective of the game up to this point was Klaus's, watching the world, watching what Rex and Numa would do, how they would respond, and what they would fight for. And that showed him that humanity doesn't have to end up to Mordetha. They don't have to tread the same road often traveled. They can forge a new one. Rex and Numa gave Klaus strength of will to believe in humanity's tomorrow. And funnily enough, the opposite is also true. Klaus gave Rex the strength to carry on, since it was because of Klaus that Rex met everyone, that gave him the power right then and there to have stopped Jin, and to stop Malos, and to maybe, just maybe, use the remaining sparks of the conduit to save the world. Because this world didn't deserve to be abandoned or escaped from. It was to be safeguarded and nurtured because humanity has a hell of a lot wrong with it. there's still genuine good to be had here. This world was worth fighting for. Rex's entire purpose and dream shifts at this current moment from running away to Elysium to escape the world of all rest to going back and protecting it and watching it bloom with life once more. The lesson that Rex had to learn and the lesson that will shape the ending of this game is simple, but it's pure all the same, and it takes place here, in the singular moment with Klaus. There is no finish line, no end point to achieve, to where all of your worries will fade away in the morning light. Elysium wasn't a destination, it was a state of mind. The will to day in and day out, to put the work in, and forge those bonds to create a better world together, so that the nihilistic future that humanity can so easily slip into does not have to be. This moment is the moment in the story that recontextualizes everything. It recontextualizes the Blade driver dynamic. It recontextualizes the Cloud Sea. We learn the truth of the world, and we learn more context for the events of Klaus and the Conduit and what it was all for. The world of All Rest itself was an I'm sorry note from Klaus. I'm sorry for having destroyed the world. Let me try and recreate it again, anew, in my own vision, so that the mistakes of the past aren't meant to be, so that another me doesn't have to be. And he lost hope, just like Rex did, in Tantal and in Elysium, when he thought it was all for nothing. That all those struggles, all those moments in time where he tried to climb ever higher heights, he thought he had fell. He thought that there was nothing to think for anymore. The entire story of Rex mirrors that of Klaus. Someone who begins with a dream of a paradise, of an Elysium, strives to make that a reality, and once they cross that line, realizes it was never meant to be. They lose hope, and then only with each other are able to find and reignite that spark of hope. And it's a powerful theme, in my opinion. How many adventures in games do we go on where it all just relies on us beating the final boss, and then all of our dreams are fulfilled, happy ever after, or tragedy strikes? The message of Xenoblade 2 is that there is no finish line. There is no ending. It's a ladder we climb day in and day out to try and make a better world for those who come after us, so that when our time is up, whether it be Blade or Driver, we can rest well, knowing that we left the world a little bit better than the one we found when we got here. There is no Elysium, there is no paradise, there is no finish line where all of our dreams will be made manifest for us. There is no Elysium. All we have is this world, and the ability to make it a better one. And next time on the finale of our Rex analysis series, we will examine the ending, and why, in my opinion, it is as close as you can get to a perfect ending, and belongs in the highest of echelons of video game endings. One last year remains, people, because chin up, we got an Elysium to create. As Rex struggles to make his dreams a reality, Klaus will also, in his dying moments, make his last wish a reality and see his dream fulfilled one last time. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload in the future, for in 1 week, we'll be wrapping up the Rex analysis series. So stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. And leave a comment down below with your reaction to the events of Elysium. Were you surprised that there weren't those green fields that we saw before? How'd you feel? I'd love to hear your stories and hear your opinions. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. Go play some video games if you can. And as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.